A while back, I decided to start my own online live radio station, and diving into the world of radio was like finding a secret doorway in my backyard that led to every corner of the globe. It wasn't about the tech or the gadgets for me. It was about those faint voices crackling through the static, each one a story, a life happening somewhere far away. That's why, armed with my trusty radio gear and a yearning for the quiet only nature could offer, I decided to mesh my two passions, radio waves and the great outdoors. The plan? To venture into the depths of a forest untouched by the clamor of daily life, seeking clarity in both thought and transmission. I chose a spot deep in the forest, far from the city's electromagnetic chatter, where the only interference would be the rustle of leaves and the occasional call of a distant bird. My setup was simple: a tent, some basic supplies, and most importantly, my portable radio gear. I was after purity, both of signal and of experience. The first couple of days were exactly what I'd hoped for. I made contact with fellow enthusiasts from places I could only dream visiting. Each exchange was a brief but genuine connection between strangers in the vast wilderness of the airwaves. But it was on the third night that things took a turn toward the extraordinary. I stumbled upon a signal, clear as crystal, yet unlike anything I'd ever encountered. It was a sequence of numbers and letters, repeating over and over. It wasn't random, it had purpose, a message encoded in its repetition. Driven by a mix of curiosity and the thrill of a challenge, I decided to track its source. I figured it was a fellow ham operator, maybe someone testing their equipment, but the clarity suggested it was close, incredibly close. Navigating through the dense underbrush and towering pines, I followed the signal, my handheld receiver guiding me deeper into the heart of the forest than I'd ever planned to go. The terrain grew rough, and the forest seemed to close in around me, but the signal pulled me forward like a siren's call. What I found was not another hobbyist camped out with a transceiver, but an old abandoned military outpost. Its rusting antennas and equipment creating a stark contrast against the natural beauty that had reclaimed the site. The signal was coming from an old, still operational transmitter, set to loop a distress signal that had never shut down. While I was marveling at this forgotten piece of history, the real surprise came. I wasn't alone. A group of survivalists, rugged and wary, had made this secluded spot their own. They emerged from the shadows, not pleased to find someone tinkering with their claimed relics. The hours that followed were tense. There I was, a trespasser in their eyes, caught meddling with something I didn't understand. They held me hostage and debated what to do with me. Their discussions were a mix of suspicion and curiosity. I realized quickly that my fascination with the signal had led me into a delicate situation, far from the safety of the known trails and the world I understood. But it was the radio that saved me in the end. Sharing stories of distant connections and the magic of radio waves, I found common ground with them. I offered to help maintain their equipment, sharing knowledge in exchange for my safe passage out. It was an uneasy truce, but it held. Leaving that place, I felt the weight of their eyes on me until I was well beyond their hidden boundary. The trek back was a reflection on the unexpected encounters that await us, often just a few steps off our planned path. Back home, with my equipment set up once again in the comfort of my familiar space, I couldn't help but feel changed. The forest, with its hidden stories and secret watchers, had offered me a glimpse into a world where the old and the new intertwined, where the pursuit of solitude could so quickly turn into a lesson on the complexities of human territory and connection. My adventure into the wild had started as a search for clarity, for pure communication across the airwaves. What I found was a reminder of the unpredictable nature of human encounters, the fragile agreements that allow us to navigate our shared spaces, and the unseen signals that guide us through the unknown. there was a journey I'd never forget. A story woven from the very threads I'd set out to explore, binding me to a world far larger and more intricate than any signal could encompass. I've always been into exploring places most people only see in movies. Think abandoned buildings, wide open deserts, and really dense forests. It's not just about the adrenaline for me. I love showing people the hidden gems of the world through my video blog, Trails Less Traveled. So when I caught wind of a forest shrouded in mystery and stories, I was all in. I grabbed my gear, hit the live stream button on my camera, and dove straight into the adventure, ready to share every moment. This forest felt welcoming at first, with its giant trees and the kind of quiet you can't find in the city. I was buzzing with excitement, and so were my viewers, chiming in with comments and riding along on this journey with me. We pushed deeper, following paths wrapped in the history of the land. But then, things started to shift. The light faded, the air got heavy, and a weird kind of silence set in. That's when I found a trail that didn't match any map I had. Curiosity got the better of me, and with a push from my viewers, I followed it. That's when strange stuff started happening. My backpack moved on its own, and I kept hearing noises that didn't belong. I tried to shrug it off, egged on by tips from someone watching. They seemed to know a lot about this place, sending me to spots that felt untouched by time. It was cool at first to find these old relics, but then my camp got messed up. Things were thrown everywhere, leading me to a clearing that gave me chills. In the moonlight, I saw stuff that made my heart stop. Items belonging to people who had disappeared were laid out like some twisted exhibit. That's when it hit me. The person guiding me wasn't just a helpful viewer. They were behind this, watching my every move, turning my exploration into their sick game. Panic kicked in hard. The forest wasn't an exciting mystery anymore. It felt like a trap. I bolted. The camera was still rolling, and every little sound was making me jump. I wasn't an adventurer anymore. I was being hunted. Getting out was a nightmare. I was all cuts and bruises, pushing through the dark, trying to get back to safety. My viewers weren't just watchers by then. They were helping me, sending encouragement, and keeping me going. When I finally got out, I was a different person. The live stream caught it all, the good, the bad, and the downright terrifying. I'd gone in hoping to reveal the forest secrets, but instead, I came face to face with how fragile we all are when we step into the unknown. Back safe now, I keep thinking about what happened. This adventure was supposed to be about discovery, but it turned into a lesson on how careful you've got to be. It taught me a lot about taking risks and knowing when it's time to step back. For anyone out there looking for their next big thrill, just remember, the world's a huge place, full of amazing stuff. But not everything out there is meant to be found. Knowing when to turn around, that's sometimes the best adventure of all. What I'm about to tell you probably won't sound believable. This is not your average scary story told around a campfire. I lived it, and it's been bothering me ever since. I think it's time I share it. So, I took my dog Scout into the woods to get away from it all and have some peace and quiet. I had this lucky rubber band on my wrist, a little something from my granddad, meant to keep me safe. Sounds silly, I know, but it's always been a comfort. The woods were beautiful, serene, and just alive. It was perfect until it wasn't. The first night, something shifted. I can't explain it, but the air felt heavier, and every little sound seemed amplified. Scout felt it too. He was on edge, growling at shadows, That evening, after settling in, I took off the rubber band to wash my hands in a nearby stream, placing it securely on a rock. But when I returned, it was gone. I searched frantically under the dim moonlight, my heart pounding against my chest. The forest, once a sanctuary, now echoed with the sinister whispers of trees and the unknown. The disappearance of the small piece of rubber, trivial as it might seem, felt like an unraveling of my safety, thread by thread. As the night pressed on, the fear grew. It wasn't just the loss, but the feeling of violation, as if unseen eyes were mocking my distress. The next morning, finding the rubber band placed neatly on a log near my tent sent shivers down my spine. It wasn't just found, it was presented, a clear sign that we were not alone. I decided to bail, but the woods wouldn't let us leave. Every path led us in circles, back to the campsite. It was like being trapped in a nightmare, with Scout and I as the unwilling stars. Almost like something out of a Saw movie. In desperation, I checked an old camera I stumbled upon, thinking maybe there'd be some clue on it. The photos I developed were normal at first. Then they turned chilling. People smiling, unaware of a dark figure lurking behind them. The last photo wasn't of people, but a message written in the dirt. You're never alone. That's when it hit me. This wasn't some ghost story. There was someone out there, toying with us. The realization was paralyzing. I wasn't scared of monsters. I was scared of a person, a hunter in the truest sense. We eventually found our way out at dawn, leaving everything behind. The drive home was silent, except for the occasional sob. Scout was quiet too, sensing the depth of what we'd escaped from. I haven't gone back to the woods since then, and I doubt I ever will. That rubber band, my supposed lucky charm, I left it there. It felt right, somehow, like a piece of me was taken that night, and I couldn't bring it back. So yeah, that's my story. But it's more than just a story to me. It's a reminder that the most terrifying things in the world may also be the most human. Be cautious if you ever decide to go off the usual path. You may not like what you find.